You've got a client showing up in 5 minutes and you didn't prepare a centering practice. What do? I've got you. I'm going to show you a centering practice that you can use. It's quick, it's easy to use, and it will help you and your client slow down so that you stop worrying about quick and you're just able to be present in that space. My name's Chris, and I'm a spiritual director. I'm in school to get my doctorate in theology and spiritual direction, and this is Spiritual Wandering. It's a community for spiritual directors, companions, coaches, and other seekers. So the first time I encountered singing bowls, it was in Asheville, North Carolina, a place that was recently hit by Helene pretty bad. That was home to me for a real long time. I was there and I was visiting a church, and something worth knowing about me is I'm a painful introvert. And so anytime I walk into church, I'm like totally in observant mode. I'm watching everything that's happening. I'm taking everything in. And it's real hard for me to be present and just like in the experience of going to a new church. I mean, really, it even goes into not just the first visit or the first few, but maybe even the first year or first 2 years in a church. It's like this for me where it's just real hard to get into the experience. And so I was visiting this church and anticipated that I would be in this observant mode. And I walk in and it's in a circle, and it stood out to me. It's like, oh, that's interesting that they're in a circle, that's how they meet. That's how they worship. There's an altar in the center, and then the seats are all around, and there was a band in the corner. It was a church called Jubilee. They mentioned they were going to have a centering moment. And so they just paused and they started with a singing bowl, something like this at the very center. And they invited people to participate with ones that they brought from home. This person in the middle, they ring the bowl, and they encourage people to kind of, take a moment, take a few breaths, get themselves centered, and invite people to also bring their own. And so I'm sitting there and I hear the first bell, and then I hear another one chime in and another one, and my eyes are closed. And it was probably like the fourth or fifth one. I open my eyes for a minute and I look around, and I realized there's like 50 or 60 people with these bowls out, and some of them are ringing it where they hit the side, and some of them are making it sing. And we'll talk more about how it sings in a minute. But I close my eyes again and I just listen, because it's this gorgeous sound, all these bells, and it's coming from all different places because the room meets in a circle. And this anxious person, this person who cannot go into a church and make their head shut off so that they can just be present, for the first time, and maybe the only time I've been in a church for a first visit, suddenly that brain, that part of me that gets so obsessed with all the details and looking at things and evaluating the service instead of being present, it just shut down. And I was there and I could feel it, and I could notice the beauty in these sounds all around me. Essentially, this is what we want to do in spiritual direction, right? We want to take a person who's coming in and they're trying to find a centered place where they can hear the voice of God. And we're trying to help that observant, the evaluated brain settle down a little bit so that they can have a somatic experience. That's what this exercise does. It's not quite the same. It's not surrounded by a group of people that are all doing this in community. Like, that is special. But there's something about this that resonates in the same way, and it just calms the mind down. So how does this work? Well, there's two different ways. It really kind of depends if you meet with people online or if you meet with them in person. So singing bowls, this is kind of a bigger one, and I would suspect it probably costs around anywhere from 50 to 120 to get one this size. But you can get smaller ones for, 20, $30 from Amazon. And you can get real fancy with it, of course, and you can, get the ones that are $300, $400, or $500 that have been handmade. There's a whole variety depending on what you want to spend and how you want to get into it, but it's very approachable, with $30 being what you might spend. And it's a metal or brass, bronze bowl, and it will come with a handle like this, with one side that has felt on it and the other side that's just wood. And what you do is, I would encourage people physically in person. I would say, hey, take a couple breaths with me, encourage them to breathe. And I would ring the bowl and I would say, when you can't hear the sound of the bell anymore, I would invite you to go ahead and share whatever's coming up for you. All it does is it gives them a point of focus, some external thing that as long as they can hear the sound, they know that it's still time for them to be in silence. I'll play one for you now just so you can kind of get the experience. Take a deep breath, long, slow breath out, and just notice how long you can hear this bell. And imagine yourself in the situation of your client listening to this before you center down. You might still hear just a little bit of it ringing in the background. I'll leave that audio just kind of to fade out as I finish this section up. But that actually tells you how you would use it online. So in person, you just have them take a breath, you ring the bell, you invite them to start the conversation once they can't hear the bell anymore. And if it's online, the way that I do that is I share my screen. So you can't share an audio on Google or on Zoom, and you can't play the sound on your computer and hope that it'll come through on the speakers. Because the speakers in Google Meet and Zoom and other things like that, they think it's background noise, and so they phase it out. If you share a screen, then it will work. And so one of the things I'm going to do as a part of this one is in the description, I'm going to share a link of a video that I've made that has nothing in it except for that bell that I just played. It just has the sound of that ringing so that you can share that video. It's unlisted, so it won't show up on my channel, but you can save the video and you can share it with people. You can use it for your own sessions that way. So the actual ringing of the bowl, if you get one, you'll take the bowl and you put it flat on your hand. And the flat's important. You don't want to cup around it. That will actually dampen the noise and you won't be able to hear. And if all you're doing is ringing it out, you use the felt covered side and you just tap it like you would a bell and it'll start to ring. The other thing that you can do with it is have it sing, and it'll make it go a little bit longer. But you take the wooden side then and you make it ring. But then you go ahead and put it on the edge and you start moving it around the outside. And I'll put it in front of the mic here and see if you can get the sound. But as you maintain constant contact and just keep going around, it starts to make this singing noise. That's why it's called a singing bowl. And again, this will not work if you are not maintaining constant contact. It also won't work online. So you've got to go back to using one of the shared screens for that. But it is beautiful in person. And so you can do a whole breathing meditation with somebody with the singing bowl going in the background. So that's the singing bowl. If you have questions, if this is interesting and you're like, oh, I wonder how you do this, how do you do this part online, anything. If you're just curious, if you want to know more about it, or if you want a link to a singing bowl that you can buy for a reasonable price, let me know in the comments. If this is valuable content for you, I would encourage you to press the subscribe button, click the little notification to make sure that it lets you know anytime I put something out. And I really hope you enjoyed this. I'll talk to you later. Blessings.